The Federal Reserve has several tools at its disposal to influence inflation. Here are some ways in which the Federal Reserve manipulates inflation. 1. Monetary policy. The Federal Reserve uses monetary policy to manage inflation. One of its primary tools is the manipulation of interest rates. By raising or lowering interest rates, the Federal Reserve can influence borrowing costs for businesses and individuals. When the Federal Reserve wants to reduce inflation, it may raise interest rates to discourage borrowing and spending, thereby reducing the demand for goods and services. Conversely, when the Federal Reserve wants to stimulate the economy and increase inflation, it may lower interest rates to encourage borrowing and spending. 2. Open market operations. Another method used by the Federal Reserve is open market operations. This involves buying or selling government securities, such as Treasury bonds, in the open market. When the Federal Reserve buys government securities, it injects money into the economy, increasing the money supply and potentially stimulating economic activity and inflation. Conversely, when it sells government securities, it reduces the money supply, which can help curb inflationary pressures. 3. Reserve requirements. The Federal Reserve also has the power to set reserve requirements for banks. Reserve requirements specify the percentage of deposits that banks must hold in reserve. By adjusting these requirements, the Federal Reserve can influence the amount of money that banks can lend out. Increasing reserve requirements reduces the amount of money available for lending, which can help control inflation. Conversely, decreasing reserve requirements can boost lending and stimulate economic growth. 4. Forward guidance. The Federal Reserve also uses forward guidance to influence inflation expectations. By providing clear communication about its future policy intentions, the Federal Reserve can shape market expectations and influence borrowing and spending decisions. If people expect the Federal Reserve to take action to control inflation, it can have an impact on their behavior and help manage inflationary pressures. It is important to note that the Federal Reserve's ability to manipulate inflation is not absolute and is subject to various factors and economic conditions. The effectiveness of its actions depends on the state of the economy, fiscal policies, and other external influences.